Okay, hi. I'm
Hello.
Jessica.
Hi,
Hi. You're Molly, I guess.
I'm Molly. Yep.
Okay, hi Molly, nice to meet you.
You too.
So, I am a therapist and life coach, and so you've come here for some services. I just wanted to use our first session to get to know each other a little bit and discuss what we'll be covering together in our work together, what your goals are, and what my role will be in working with you.
Okay.
So, what are your hopes to get out of our work together? What made you schedule an appointment?
Well, I'm just feeling really overwhelmed, and so I guess my goal would be to get some help. Just kind of prioritizing things and, um, you know, walking away at some point, kind of having a clearer picture of what I need to do and the steps I need to do it in,
Okay.
to reach my goals. So.
Okay, great. So, and just so you know, I'll be writing things down. I write them down so I don't forget. I'll just be taking notes.
Okay.
So, you want to talk about the goals that you have? Is it in your personal life, work life?
Yeah, it's personal. Right now, I mean, finances are a big challenge. And that's kind of, I mean, I guess work impacts that, and, it impacts my home life and my relationships. So
Okay.
it's something that one piece kind of is spilling over into everything else.
Okay. So, you want to talk about your goals and you want to leave with clarity.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, in talking about my role with you, I am a therapist and I am a life coach, so I want to help you achieve your goals. We will meet for about once a week is what you like to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then the sessions are about 50 minutes long, so a little less than an hour.
Okay.
At 50 minutes, I will let you know when we've reached our time, and then we'll work together to process what we've done, and then we'll set up our next appointment for the next time that we'll meet. Sometimes we'll finish what we wanted to work on that day, and sometimes we won't. And if we don't, we'll discuss it. The next time we see each other.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, so in our agency, everything is confidential. So all of our work together will be confidential. Um, I do need to let you know though that certain things are not confidential, and that would be that if you reported to me that you were thinking about hurting yourself or hurting someone else, that would not be confidential. I would need to report that to the proper authorities.
Right.
Okay.
So what about, though, I mean, I don't know if my husband will ever come to these with me, but, some of the stuff I'm going to ask you about has to do with him and kind of our finances and different things. So if he, like, called and had questions about, I don't know, stuff we talked about, are you able to talk to him, or how does that work?
Well, right now, everything this right now we're working together. So anything you say to me, I will be confidential. Um, if he comes in, then we would discuss what we want to have him in on the sessions for, and what you want him to know, and what you want him to hear about. Um, but if he just calls me to ask, for example, what we've talked about in session today, I'm not going to disclose that information because it's confidential.
Okay.
Okay. And then if there's anything specific that you want me to share with him,
Yeah.
or that you don't, then let me know, and we'll take it, one thing at a time. But otherwise, no, your information's confidential.
Okay, good.
Do you have any questions about that, or do you?
No, that makes sense. I just, if I guess I'm honest with you about kind of the severity of our finances, he might not be as aware, and I want to try and maybe solve some of these problems before,
Okay,
maybe instead of telling him, just so it's not a problem anymore.
that makes sense. Yes, and so all of that will be confidential.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, great. So, where do you want to start? What are your? You said you wanted to discuss your goals. So, what are your goals?
Well, right now, the financial one is kind of the biggest thing. So, my goals would be, I've got two different credit cards that have a pretty significant balance on, and I want to get those paid off. And, and I guess just figure out how to do that while continuing to save money, And, you know, we have a financial goal of paying our house off, and so we have my husband's salary going toward that. So right now we're only living on one salary, and so I certainly don't make nearly as much as he does, and so it's tough then to try and stretch mine between trying to pay off some credit cards, put money in savings, because we do an additional savings with the money I get every month. You know, and it's October, we've got holidays coming up, we've, you know, got a pretty big family, and so really right now, if I can get some of that, I guess, organized, that will take a huge amount of stress off my plate.
Okay. Okay. So you're wanting to figure out how to use the structure that you have set up with your husband and make basically how am I going to make this paycheck cover all of this?
Yeah, or are there other things I can be doing
Okay.
to help supplement that? And
Okay. Do you and your husband, does he share the same goals with you?
I mean, yes, as far as like our savings and getting the house paid off has been the biggest goal, not something we've been working on for 2 years now.
Okay.
But you know, and he wants to be financially stable. That's why we're trying to pay off the house. And I just for some reason have had these credit cards that I don't even really know how they've accumulated the balance that they have, but you know, he knows that I have credit cards and that I've got a couple $100s on each, but he doesn't know, I guess, what that really looks like. And so
Okay. Okay. Do you, you mentioned like wanting to solve some things before he joins us in and discussing the goals. Or is that what you were thinking of, is resolving the credit cards?
yes, absolutely. If I can get those paid down quite a bit, you know, I think then it'll make life easier thinking about how do we stretch. And then I think too, I think he'd be willing to do, you know, some extra things on the side. You know, I don't know if it really works with either of our schedules right now to get a second job, but,
Okay.
you know, if there are other things, you know, we've just thought about, you know, just little ways to make money. I think that he would do that, but I don't want to say, oh, well, I've got to pay, you know, these big chunks of credit card off first. And
Okay.
so,
So you have, it sounds like you have the same long-term goals.
yeah,
Your shorter-term goals are to pay off these cards, and you believe that he would be willing to maybe help, but not necessarily wanting him to have all of that information?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and it's just stressful. I think, you know, we talk about our finances quite a bit, and he sees what's going into savings, and he sees that, you know, my bill doesn't, or my paycheck doesn't always cover everything. And, you know, the week in between, or I guess right before we get paid, you know, things are stretched pretty thin. And so, you know, every now and then he'll see that I'm, you know, we have a joint account that we pay our bills out of, and so he'll see how much I'm paying toward my credit cards. And every now and then we'll kind of ask, like, wow, didn't you just pay, you know, whatever last month? You know, why are you still paying that? And I just try to kind of, you know, say I'm taking care of things, but
So does he know, like, for example, the things that are going onto the cards? Is he with you when they go on them?
No.
Or, okay.
no.
Okay. So these might be things that he doesn't necessarily know about, and so therefore
It's-
he's asking?
Well, he just doesn't know the amount of the balance, and so that's why he's wondering why, because he's very, I don't know, good about his finances, and just, you know, he wants us both to have a couple credit cards because it's good for your credit rating and score, but says, you know, let's keep $100 on each. And mine, though, I just, you know, and it's little things. It's not like I don't tell him, you know, it's just stupid stuff like getting Starbucks a couple times a month, and then going and getting my nails done, or going shopping a little bit here and there. And it's never like I spend a ton of money at once, but it is little things that over time have kind of added up. And And not that he would have a problem with any of that. I just, I think the amount would stress him out a little bit, and he just is we have some other stuff going on with our family that they've needed some help financially too, so, we're having to already tap into savings accounts that, we've kind of made inaccessible to us, that we've said, okay, we're not touching this, it's a process to take money out. I don't even do it, it's through like his work and things, but, that's already been tough, because we don't want to have to put our goals aside, if family members aren't themselves being responsible, but then here I am with this kind of, to me, big, debt that's outstanding that's kind of been just, it's been stressing me out and weighing me down, and every month I see it, and I don't know how else we can, like, there's nothing else we can cut out of our budget or cut back on to save money so that it can go to the cards. So I'm really just feeling kind of stuck.
Okay. So you mentioned it's been stressing you out. How's that been? How's that impacting you?
Lately it's been getting worse, and I think that, we did have a charge. We had to get new tires for my husband's car, and that was like $500. And we at the time didn't have the money in the checking account, because it was before I got paid. So we put it on one of my credit cards. So it was, and that was a couple months ago. But so when I then saw the balance with that additional money on it, I just started getting really stressed out. And I think, it's something I notice I'm frequently thinking about. And what else can I do? How could I earn money? Just little things on the side, like, what can I sell around the house? Are there things I can put on Craigslist? Are there, things I can do in the community, donating blood or plasma or something? Like, really, I'm kind of I'm trying to, I guess, be as creative as I can to find ways to pay this off, and but at the same time doing something that isn't a second job, that's not going to take a ton of my time away from home, different things like that, but.
Okay. Does that help you to think of different creative ideas? Does that help with the stress level?
In a sense, like, I feel good when I come up with things that might work, but at the same time, nothing's really in action yet, and I have ideas, but then I find myself getting kind of consumed with having to think of it and find, the thing that's going to make all my problems go away. So that, I guess, doesn't really help with the stress, if I'm constantly thinking about it and worrying about it, but.
It sounds like you want to have an action plan, or you want some things that are kind of tangible that you can do.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're looking for ways to do
Yeah.
that. Okay. So, great. This is a great start for us. We will continue to meet and talk about this, and just to reiterate that I'm here to help you go over the goals that you've set up, how you're going to do that, some ideas that you have, and maybe processing some of the stress that you're feeling, and processing some of the ideas. Now, I may or may not say that I think something is a good idea or not, but
Right.
I really want to help you figure out, for you, how can you relieve some of the stress? What are some of the ideas that you can try? And maybe how we can integrate Matt in on the plan with you, because it sounds like you want to integrate him in on some of that.
Yeah.
And so maybe we can brainstorm some things and as we continue to do our work together. Does that
Okay.
sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for me?
When's our next appointment?
We're going to set that up right now.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.